the Italian Archaeological School in Athens, o Emanuele Barbi, che convisse questa richiesta per l'ufficio scolista a Pinon. Welcome, Carlos Elisabeth. And I give the floor to the ambassador of Italy, Dr. Patrizia Falcinelli.
So, dear Director Papi, dear Director dear friends, it's an honor, of course, for me to be here at the premises of the Italian School of Archaeology in Athens. I cannot imagine a better location to host this conference, aiming, among other things, at triggering new reflections and tools on maritime spatial planning and its interrelation with cultural heritage. I'm also particularly glad that I will be able to gather from you some food for thought on this very interesting subject. Even though I'm not very familiar with this issue, when I was first told I cannot imagine MSPMED project and today's conference, I thought this event would be relevant for two reasons. On the one hand, I believe that it is particularly interesting to explore the perspective of the cultural value of the seascape and to highlight spaces and the integrated management of coastal areas. On the other hand, by looking into the concept of landscape from the sea and through the lenses of a sustainable development perspective, the project clearly focused on some features that are common all by doing so, ending and to provide a framework for the sharing of knowledge and best practices between EU member states and non-EU countries of the eastern shores of the Mediterranean. I believe that especially in the current global times of uncertainties, it is key to further tie the knots of cooperation in every possible occasions and environments. This is further true in the Mediterranean Sea, or as the ancient Romans used to call Mare Nostrum, an area where ancient civilizations came into contact and reached each other, a sea that does not separate, unites. Italy and Greece proved it almost exactly 2 years ago when we signed the historic agreement on the delimitation of our respective maritime zones, which marked positively our bilateral relations with Greece. Hopefully, it can also serve as a source for inspiration and a model of cooperation and dialogue in the wider Mediterranean region, as it is in everyone's interest to create a stable and peaceful environment. Italy stands ready to share its cutting-edge knowledge on landscape, cultural heritage, and sustainable development to get closer to this goal. This is also one of the targets of Rome candidacy to host the 2030 Universal Exhibition. Our will is to work on this by cooperating with our partners, including Greece, of course, for instance, by developing joint projects of common interest in every sector related to the theme of Rome's candidacy, which is focused on people and territories, urban regeneration, inclusion, and innovation. These are issues that are particularly relevant also to today's discussion, which I commend for its timing and cooperative approach. I conclude just wishing you a productive session of discussion and wishing you all the best for this very important event. Thank you.
Thank you, the Ambassador of Italy, for her speech. The Italian Archaeological School in Athens is very pleased to host this important meeting entitled Pan-Eastern Mediterranean Conference on Land-Seascape. Athens, the location chosen for the meeting, is particularly significant. Greece has the longest coastline of the Mediterranean, 8,000 miles, and has the largest number of islands, over 600, 200 of which have been inhabited for millennia. Greece, its the like of great Venice, not in the format of a city, but of a nation. The Italian Archaeological School contributes to knowledge enhancement and management of the maritime heritage with excellent collaboration with the Greek Eforia Enarion Athletiton and the Italian Soprintendenza del Mare. And for this reason, we are doubly pleased that the conference will be held today in this hall. With this, I want to welcome all of you with best wishes for a good meeting. And now I pass the floor to Dr. Eftimios Bakoyannis, General Secretary of Spatial Planning and Urban Environment of the Hellenic Ministry of the Environment and Energy. I think Mr. Bakoyannis will speak through video. Thank you.
Just 1 second. Just need, sorry, 1 second to share it. Technicalities.
Delegates, colleagues,
Sorry, there is technical issue. Why there is this return?
Gentlemen, the Ministry of Environment and Energy and the General Secretariat for Spatial Planning and Urban Environment, as the competent authority for the establishment and implementation of marine spatial planning, cooperate with the relevant ministries and agencies and the scientists in order to ensure its sustainable development and the protection of the environment in the context of the ecosystem approach and taking into account the special geographic features of the country, the extensive coastline, the characteristics and the coastal areas of the Mediterranean Sea Barcelona Convention, ratified by Law 855/1978 and its protocols, in which the Hellenic Republic is a contracting party. In the context of the cross-border cooperation and the strengthening of existing regional partnerships, the Ministry of Environment and Energy participate in the transnational project MSPMED towards the operational implementation of MSP in our common Mediterranean Sea and in the cross-border Interreg VA Greece-Cyprus 2014-2020 cross-border cooperation for the implementation of marine spatial planning, while through the second program, the maritime spatial planning of the country is implemented. The National Maritime Spatial Planning Strategy sets out the strategic directions towards a sustainable development with the Maritime Strategy Framework Directive 2006 achieving a good environmental environment. It indicates and justifies spatial frameworks, sets objectives focusing on the incorporates in its planning the political framework and the current legislation introduced by the European Green Deal that takes
In fact, as I told already, the definition of the landscape is all the territory. It is the entire territory, whether on land, water, or sea. And the scope says that the convention is for all these parts of the territory, and also says that it's focused not only on the exceptional and the most beautiful, what is recognized perhaps at international level with the UNESCO list, but also to all territories, all coastal zones could be and should be in the convention. We don't speak only of protection because it's not management and sometimes to restore, but all the coastal zone of the Mediterranean Sea could be a real landscape.
Sorry for that.
1 minute. And this is the idea to work not only on the exceptional, but on the everyday, as we say. And this is of particular relevance for the coastal zone of the Mediterranean Sea, because some are very, and when we speak of degradation, it's first of course pollution, contamination, but it's also waste, plastic, bags, and oil. And this is a big problem for the Mediterranean Sea. And I can say that the Barcelona Convention is pure in international law, because the Barcelona Convention, adopted in 1975, already was looking for all these elements of contamination coming by rivers, protected areas, and so on. And it's important to see, I say, all these texts, of course, together. And yes, because this is not, of course, there is no intelligence in the high sea and except fishermen, but we must take into consideration all the perspectives. And the framework of the convention says that it's important for all the components of sustainability. And the Council of Europe says that sustainability is not economics. And environment. And this is very important to take into consideration to put and the protocol was adopted recently to open this convention to non-member states of the Council of Europe, and it says that the landscape system, we can say, is important for all people in all the world. And how to assess and evaluate this value of the landscape is to find objectives, qualitative objectives. And this is a way to work, because if not, people can say it's very subjective. But if we work with scenario, with objectives, it's possible to come step by step to a better quality. And this is a little explanation of the links between all these dimensions. And why it's because this is important for human beings first, of course, but when we speak of economy, in the directive on maritime spatial planning, it's speak of cost, but we must think about what is cost there. Is it infinite cost, or is it more management in a very wise manner? And the real treasure of the sea are those and it's important to develop the sea considering all these values. This is very basic. And definitions are there, and I must enter all the definitions. Consider the place of human being in this task. The human being has rights, but also responsibilities. And the responsibility is to develop the territory, terrestrial or maritime, in a wise manner, considering all these values and the passion of these values. Because we don't speak more of natural landscape or cultural landscape. Landscape is a landscape with natural and cultural values, and the interaction between the two aspects, nature and culture. Nature plus culture is landscape. And you can see what is quantitative objective protection. Protection is also a classical way to work to protect cultural assets, natural assets, but all must be managed. This is an important task for the future. And planning must, in this convention, to restore the public areas, to rehabilitate, to give a second life to these places. And we saw recently in Tripoli how the recreation of the Lake Kala, is a good example because it was a forgotten landscape, and with a wish to restore, to recreate, it was possible. And this is a task of the next years and perhaps centuries. And I try to move it.
It's not. Yeah.
And the aims of the convention is to bring this international cooperation as we do here, and it's very important because ideas are coming on the meet and discuss. And the countries has tasked at national level to give a legal recognition, to establish and implement landscape policies. It's why maritime landscape plan is part of this exercise to establish procedures for conservation, because perhaps there is no people in the sea, in the harbor, in the coastal zone. There are people, and what they see on the coastal zone, and what they see when they are on the boat, because this is the coast, and to integrate this into all policies. This is very important to introduce this idea in all different policies. So next, please.
So the clicker is not working.
And to develop our tracing, assessment. This is inventories that are done for natural heritage and for the views, for the dimensions which are specific to the landscape. And to implement all this. And I will now speak of how this text is monitored and how you can have access to the policies. It's in this information system, and the countries are invited step by step to fulfill and to give information. And it's very important because this can inspire from other countries to move their policies. And for example, the Corte Constitucional of Italy, because we are in one decision spoke of the landscape convention. And this is very important because this becomes a law, and it's obligatory in countries. It's not just a text for good ideas, it's becoming a regulation. And also the modification of the constitution take into consideration all these ideas. And I see this is what we are doing also. And just to explain that step by step, the Council of Europe adopted the recommendations to go more in detail and to do some steps more. And until now, it's not specific based on maritime areas, but perhaps in the future it could be also, because it's very important to mention it's coastal zones. And in 1999, in fact, the Council of Europe Committee of Ministers adopted a model law on coastal zone and the code of conduct. And the Committee of Ministers asked the countries to take into consideration these problems in their regulations. And perhaps this text could be not forgotten, it could be presented. And this was more recently a meeting organized on the water, landscape, and citizen in the face of global changes. And we were very pleased to present all the aspects of water, fresh water, but also saltwater and also dimensions, and we are very pleased that Mrs. Given presented a beautiful presentation. And in this meeting, some presentation were on, for example, the inspiration of the sea and the water to impressionist painters. It's very important for inspiration, for cinema, for all art. The sea has this important dimension. Necessary to remember. Also, this picture was on some landscape observatories in north in south of France from the sea. How you see the coast? It's an interesting perspective on the road. But how you see the sea observatory, landscape observatory. And another, it was of I think Italy, on how to restore coastal areas degraded. Very important also because this is sometimes not taken enough into consideration. And one was also underwater system, because any work was done already on this, and it's important to push this. And some other work was done also with the water archaeology last year in Paris. And recently, this meeting in Tripoli was very important, help us to understand more how to progress in this way. And the landscape areas are also not enough on this dimension of the sea, I can't recognize, but some of them speak of dealing with contamination of the shores of the coastal zones, and it's impressive to see how it was rehabilitated. And some other are dealing with management plan for all some small islands in Ireland, for example. And these are some publications. They will next week or so. And a little booklet on education of landscape for children is available on these languages. So just to inform you that each year there is a landscape day, and this year it will be on health. And now I will shortly speak of the combination of instruments, because we know that we have many instruments, many conventions, many directives, many regulations, and all these texts must be in combination way. And I try to see what are the countries members of the European Union as a last paragraph, and on the top, member of the Land-Seascape Convention. And you see that some are still missing, and some, but in general, this is a new idea to work on this with these concepts and to progress. It should be in any instrument. This dimension must be taken into consideration. And we speak of the ecosystem, but this is multidimensional. Of course, I love 2 years for the Grand Convention, but we must work with other dimensions, and other dimensions are landscape, because it's considering also the cultural heritage and all these values and the combinations of interaction, and the memories, the impact of cultural heritage and intangible heritage. And one detail about this. Last year, it was about fishermen, substituted by you, but personally, I think this was not good for heritage, because all these little words were very precious. And yes, and we think that the ecosystem approach must be completed by the landscape approach, and all this is not incompatible, because landscape includes, of course, ecology, and the landscape dimension approach asks to consider the territory as a whole, to recognize the fundamental role of knowledge, to promote awareness, to define landscape strategies, to integrate landscape dimension in territorial policies, to integrate landscape into sectoral policies, to make use of public participation, to achieve landscape quality objectives, and to develop mutual assistance and exchange of information. And all this is explained in this recommendation because it's a very detailed text with many information. And just to tell that the directive of the European Union, the directive of 2014 refers to the Council of Europe conventions, Council of Europe conventions on cultural heritage and on landscape. And this is already in the European Union regulation, so it would be impossible that the maritime plan, strategic plan, directly don't consider also the landscape dimension, because it's the same regulation, the same authority. And in Article 3, it says that I don't want to read all, but you see the word landscape and of course cultural heritage. And this is law, it's adopted. And in conclusion, I just want to that all this is important for human beings, right? And it's important also to push all these ideas at global level in the agenda 2030, because this agenda has many ideas of sustainable development. And don't consider this dimension. And this goal 14 say conserve and sustainable use of ocean, but it's always to use them. It's not to keep or to avoid resource for sustainable development. And it should be possible to say that it should be with the landscape dimension and to consider this harmonious as a convention saying relationship between social needs, economic activity, the environment, and also the culture, because it's in the article. And just to finish, I want to say you thank you so much. And in the you find the bibliography after the presentation if you want. Thank you so much.
Really thank you for this presentation. It was incredible, really useful. I apologize for a few technicalities, issues, but in them. So I think it's now the time to give the floor to Mr. Paolo Campostrini, who is the director of Corilla and the coordinator of this project, MSPMED, and we welcome you on behalf of the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Folco, and thank you to all of you for being here. I'm really excited to be here in this fabulous place. Whereas speaking about culture and the relationship between Italy and Greece. So I have this title, which is a little changed because I think that we go over. Now we have to do a cultural based approach to MSP. And maybe this is the first time to start. Where should I go? No. Not my presentation.
This one.
Okay, this one. So just to tell you about the maritime spatial planning for few of you which does not know what maritime spatial planning is, because it has been defined at the international level as a practical way to put together, to analyze and allocate the use of the sea in order to maximize the benefits, ensuring the protection of the environment. So it is not something for simply safeguard the environment, but to allow a sustainable use of the environment. No. I don't know which is the
I wanted to
just say next and we.
Okay. Before. international definition. We have a European directive since 2014, which is set within the integrated maritime policy, the MSP as a contribution for an effective management to put in practice some principle of integrated maritime planning, integrated maritime policy, and promoting the ecosystem-based approach. Next one, please. So we will not be studying. So we have to consider, according to MSP, all in the three dimension, not only this, also in the depth. So fishing, aquaculture, transport, energy, tourism, security, but also natural protection and underwater cultural heritage. This is mentioned in the directive. But next. The word landscape is not named explicitly. We have to implement in the plan in all waters in our data. So we have to do the ecosystem-based approach, land-sea interaction, stakeholder engagement, transboundary cooperation. So it's not limited only to the marine water, but we have also to look at the land and to see what are the interaction between land and sea, and then we have to involve the people. So the social aspect is very important as well. I will try.
Yeah, try the other way around.
Okay. So MSP give these important objectives in natural and economic terms, but cannot ignore the relevance of the culture and also spiritual services. Let's use this word, offered by the sea. But because key, because not only because the people come and see how tourism may use in this way another use of the sea, because we go to the museum and see the Poseidon, but for the cultural heritage value, which is part of the identity of the population. And if you want to achieve the social cohesion of member states, we have to insist a bit on our cultural identity, and the cultural identity being to be aware of our big cultural heritage. Okay. Let me speak just a moment about the MSP project, MSPMED project, which is in the frame where this meeting is occurring. This is a project funded by the European Union, co-funded by the European Union, where a month of duration, again, learned a bit because of the COVID. We will end in October, started exactly to the pandemic. And we cannot plan our own wrong, let's say, to plan each member state its own, without a common strategy, without a common capability to set up this plan. So we did this just for example, very fast. We are supporting Italy. The competent authority is the Ministry of Infrastructure and Sustainable Mobility. In some way, and the same did the Greece with partners which are helping in giving support for establishing national special plan strategy and a number of practical things that are needed for this planning. For instance, there are some crossing cutting tasks. The data is important to have a common data platform where to share the information. Otherwise, you cannot put them on a map. At the end, we have to produce a map. And so we ask ourselves, what are the enabling factors, the key enabling factors for allowing an effective just the production of maps nobody use, maybe they are beautiful, they are not effective. So we ask ourselves, and we had this topic, the administrative factor and the cost, which is an issue. The stakeholder, it is normal and important to involve all the stakeholders, the data availability and sharing, the ecosystem-based approach, and Land-Sea interaction. And this will be an additional of this topic that we will carry on landscape, the landscape dimension. Why something concerning the pan-Eastern Mediterranean? This is also not only a topic, but it's also an occasion, should have been an occasion for meeting also people from non-EU member states. Because, of course, the Mediterranean is surrounded by 22 countries, so it makes very difficult the planning if we not speak each other. And this other complexity is the physiographic is different, is complex. No? So we have a depth sea, shallow seas, and we have to consider all these facts. This is why we have one particular task in the project, which is named cooperation among member states and with the third countries. This is also the reason why we invite here, and we are glad they accept our invitation, some people which are not members of the European Union. But going back, going to the theme of this workshop, land and seascape, we believe that is a new approach must be found somewhere, because there are completely new uses of the sea which appeared in the last decades. Of the sea connected the culture since the beginning of connecting the people. Now there are giant passenger ships with 4,000 people which are looking the sea from the sea. We have a huge number, enormous number of small recreational vessels all around here. No? We have more important again artificial structure for energy, for both for fuel, fossil fuel extraction, but also today with to use the eolic energy. So. And they are occupying space, something which were never occurred in the past. We are starting, and we heard about underwater parks. So to look at what is underwater, to carry people interested, tourists also, to look at, and aquaculture, new farms. So these make the possibility of a new human perception, because the landscape occur when there is a human person which is feeling something. The perception is a key for the landscape. Without man, without the humankind, there is no landscape. So we have to consider this new perception from land to sea, normal. If you are few people, or if you are 4,000 people in one vessel, from sea to sea, and also the perception which can be felt underwater. No.
Scroll down and that's it goes.
Scroll down. Okay. Okay. As this is a new thing, I think that we have to join forces, to join ideas, to share, to start sharing ideas as we are doing here. So this seminar will be an occasion to share these new ideas concerning this new point. And we have in front, we know that the blue economy is growing. We, in some sense, support this growth. We know that there is no growth today if there is not sustainable growth, at least is embedded in the concept, in the European concept of blue growth that must be sustainable. And okay. I take the occasion also. Okay, grazie. So the open questions we are asking us today, what specific notion of landscape can be applied at sea, which is not a territory? Landscape is the English translation of paesaggio, or paesaje, or topoi, no? Where is a place where people live normally, no? But it's not only land, it's a land inhabited by people. So should we rethink the value of cultural heritage and landscape at sea to meet these new blue uses or not? And how landscape and new blue uses can co-evolve, improving a long-lasting sustainable development? We heard before from the General Secretary of Landscape that the landscape need planning, need to be planned. The convention is written, we have to plan the landscape. We are planning the sea, we can plan the landscape, and so this co-evolution can start. Scroll down, but I'm close to finish, but it's I am sorry. Okay. Yeah. So the pan-eastern Mediterranean, the Mediterranean is key. The pan-eastern is even more key because here happen the things. Here happen everything, and so we have the possible, and we have also a lot of possibilities. We have here in the Eastern Mediterranean the possibility of big exploitation of submarine marine gas. No, we have our resources. We have environmental conservation issues, very important. We have to look to a better sustainable fishing and management action. We need to cooperate for safety at sea as well. So again, but what we share here is this amazing landscape that not makes only attract people, no, for tourism, but we have, which is for us more a millenary cultural heritage which characterize the identity of our population. So finally, the question is here from Caposugno, where I went yesterday. Are we ready for a new MSP cultural-based approach? I believe that this will be the question that in the next few hours we will discuss. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for this very engaging presentation that I think will guide also the discussion that we'll have later. I now go to the floor Professor Stella Sofia Kivel with the EastMed MSP protocol for the MSP platform, and she will deliver a presentation on the advancement of MSP in EU member states of the Central Coast. Thank you.
I change this and I give you.
Yes.
I will do this.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Works.
Perhaps it will go
But you need to take the microphone then, because you need it's not.
This is fine. Okay.
All right.
I think it will be better to
If you click it. Yep.
Okay.
the distance. Well, here Paul is an electrical engineer. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and dear colleagues. I'm very happy to welcome you in Athens. Unfortunately, I won't represent my country, but I will represent the MSP assistance mechanism that is a service for member states to share relevant knowledge and experiences on maritime spatial planning. The assistance mechanism is responsible for the European MSP platform for its implementation of this project, which is actually an official platform of the European Commission now. And since its inception, the assistance mechanism MSP role is to support the member states and DG Mare in the implementation of the MSP directive. We recently organized the MSP stakeholders meeting in Brest on the occasion also of the French presidency to the Council. On the 14th and 15th June, it was an important conference which I would like to see what we have achieved, the achievements and the future. The achievements since the European Directive of 2014, and then the future, where we are going, what will be the character of the future MSP. Will it integrate, finally incorporate cultural values, and will it be cultural based, as Pierpaolo already mentioned? And I think this is the most important question. The assistance mechanism already from 2019 has elaborated a study where it was mentioned that cultural and social issues are missing. There are missing layers in maritime spatial planning. So social data, cultural data also are missing. I think that since 2019, not so much evolutions and advances exist, but in any case, you see here on an international level, during the ocean decade, for the ocean UN United see here one main part of the ocean decay programs is cultural values and ocean literacy. This is not just a mention. This is a great part of the programs of the ocean decay. Next. So I will I take this opportunity to present you a relevant study by the assistance mechanism, which is recently published by the European Commission. It is in fact a handbook on how we can integrate UCH MSP. It was authored by myself and my colleague that is responsible for the Western Mediterranean, Ivanov, and edited by Chris McDougall, who is our project manager. You see there the structure of this handbook. And some short messages. Marine space is gradually shifting away from something simply to be protected from exploitation and degradation towards a place of opportunity and investment. This is a reality. Each sea basin has its own history, of course, and culture, characterized by either strong cooperation efforts, e.g. the Baltic Sea, or rather fragmented, unfortunately, when it comes to the possibility of achieving common plans, e.g. the Mediterranean. That's why yes, I do agree with Pierpaolo Gambostrini that we have to go on with this cooperation of the 22 countries of the Mediterranean Sea. Understanding, recognizing, and utilizing underwater cultural heritage as a sensitive asset in the marine space and reconciling its preservation and promotion within the sustainable blue economy perspective is a real challenge. MSP has to address the principle of the sea as common, which means, so except as Mr. Kukumelis would say, the ownership of the shipwrecks, for example, which can be the state or a person or a family, which means balancing priorities amongst multiple users who all have a right of access and use over the same area. Some other key messages, very briefly. MSP is about the relationship between people and the sea. It is also mentioned. This is also the relationship that maritime archaeologists try to understand from a historical perspective. Thus, the MSP process can benefit from an understanding of the historic environment, including engagement with coastal and maritime archaeologists. MSP, under an integrated placed approach, in our opinion, creates more opportunities for maritime and underwater cultural heritage to receive greater attention in terms of protection and management. Such an approach is considered ideal for tackling the growing competition among sea uses while mitigating the pressures inflicted by these uses on nature and culture. And please give attention to this nature and culture. We have organized a very nice conference in 2018 opened by Magellan de Champons about this nature and culture dimension of landscape. The tangible and intangible cultural values, heritage associated with the sea continues to be neglected in MSP due to inherent difficulties in defining and highlighting cultural values, but also in connecting them to specific places to allow a place-based approach to planning. And here we have, as Pierpaolo said, we need the stakeholders, the local people, the local authorities. You saw the messages that came from our study, and here you see some key messages by UNESCO. UNESCO, and especially during the 13th meeting of the Scientific and Technical Advisory Body, very recent, you see there, 6th May 2022, Tunis, Tunisia. You see the messages. Underwater cultural heritage needs to be preserved to understand our past relationship, etc. Underwater cultural heritage and its natural environment form one indivisible ecosystem, and damaging one puts the other at risk. This is the reconnection, the need to reconnect, in fact, natural and cultural heritage. Underwater cultural heritage is irreplaceable. Ocean productivity should not be in danger, put in danger its long-term protection. And finally, the most important for us, at least, that we're working for the blue economy, is that underwater cultural heritage is a major contributor to the blue economy. When sustainable managed, it can support the economic development of local communities. You see that this is UNESCO that gives these messages, and this is very important. Not Jumare, it is UNESCO. So this is our handbook. You can find it. I will send you the link. Maritime archaeology. There are some recommendations at the end. Of course, you understand I have picked some very briefly some recommendations and messages. Maritime archaeology can be seen as an environmental concern, and I remember now what Magellan de Champons said about the ecosystem-based approach. We have to link the ecosystem-based approach with maritime and underwater cultural heritage. The archaeological material is also a habitat for the species and can provide an important ecological resource And we have a new study from the Southern Mississippi University that says that also the shipwrecks, for example, and every human construction under the sea, on the seabed, etc., is very useful for the species and for increasing biodiversity, because it disperses the microbes, and there is a mechanism about biofilms and so on. It's very important, these human constructions for the biodiversity, for increasing biodiversity. Within the MSP process, MCH, UCH should be considered as a very relevant use to promote the multi-use concept. This is really we are, I think, together with the MSPMED project, we are pioneers on this concept and on the analysis of this concept in the marine space, with multiple benefits for society, the economy, and the environment. Through MSP, planners can explore UCH as a component of multifunctional sites also, because multifunctional sites means that they have social, economic, and environmental dimensions. Even the land ownership, the ownership of the underwater cultural heritage means has a social implication, as you see. This is a methodology suggested in our handbook, how we can incorporate UCH in MSP, and you see step four here, which is optional, of course. You cannot say you apply on multi-use, of course. This is optional, but this is, we have already put this step. This is the design UCH-driven MU scenarios, multi-use scenarios, with tourists within MPAs or close to MPAs, that is nature conservation also. So the three cultural heritage, tourism, diving tourism, marine protected areas, etc., and assess, of course, their potential at country and local level. Okay, there is also a step which is neglected, and it's the assessment of the value of the cultural heritage. And this is not bad. This is not respectless concept. On the contrary, assessing the value of cultural heritage, of underwater cultural heritage, means that documents to support maritime plans merits serious consideration. That is how we integrate in supplementary planning documents, perhaps. There is a clear scope to incorporate UCH within the assessment of good environmental status, and therefore within maritime strategies. There is a need for maritime heritage managers. Local government archaeological officers should be mobilized and encouraged to engage in maritime spatial planning. Too many recommendations here, there are only a few. Yes, I think. Well, some insights now not on behalf of the assistant managers of Stella Value as a professor at Pandion University in Greece. Of course, the landscape is part, is mentioned in the Amsterdam Protocol, beginning from the landscape, from the Barcelona Convention. Now it is acquiring terrestrial, legal status as the terrestrial spatial planning, and the territorial agenda 2030, please see this, increased and coordinated exploitation of maritime space and marine resources may impact sustainable development by changes in land and sea use, urbanization, mass tourism, threaten cultural assets and landscapes, and may fragment national habitats and ecological corridors. This is the Territorial Agenda 2030, the last one, So landscape is just as important for marine planning as for terrestrial planning. So, opening the discussion about marine quality landscape plans will certainly enrich maritime spatial planning social and cultural considerations, the missing layers. Will add coherence, identity, and quality to maritime spatial plans. This was also, if you say, mentioned by Felix Lineman during the Brest conference about coherence and quality of plans. Will enhance transboundary cooperation in MSP processes also on a sea basin level, and I like very much Professor Musco's proposals about this transboundary cooperation between Greece and Italy on UCH, and some challenges, how to reconcile balanced development of blue economy landscape preservation, how to upgrade the economic value of naturally and culturally significant areas in order to make conservation and enhancement of landscape quality priority in MSP, and how to combine a landscape policy with a climate-informed MSP. This was also mentioned, if you like, with emphasis during the Brest conference, a climate-informed MSP. Well, this comes from a research of mine about maritime cohesion, maritime coherence. You see there landscape, seascape, and so on, but it's not so important. And another idea about perhaps the institutionalization of the mainland to create new jobs, finally. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stella. I'm sorry to have to catch you. But
like that, it's okay.
It works, yes.
It works. Thank you very much. So without further ado, because we are running a bit late, I invite to the floor Michelle da Silva, who is a representative of IOC UNESCO, and will give an overview and findings of the MSP Global Initiative, especially with regard to Eastern country. Thank you.
Let's see if I can manage all the technicalities. First of all, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Ambassador Fontanelli, Director Papi, and then it's very. I'm just afraid of this.
None of the questions.
And then in the name of the whole, I'd like to thank the organizers for the invitation. It's a pleasure for me to be here today, representing IOC UNESCO. My name is Michelle Pescada, and I work for marine structural planning with IOC since 2000. My presentation is to give you an overview of the MSP Global Initiative and the MSP Roadmap, that is the framework that this project was implemented.
Yeah.
So the MSP roadmap, for those who are not aware, is this joint framework that was adopted by IOC and the European Commission in 2017. And the objective is to promote MSP worldwide. And we have a target that is to support the achievement of MSP plans in at least 1/3 of the areas under national restrictions. And this roadmap, it has 5 priority actions. It started in 2017 and it ended last year in 2021. And then to implement the actions of this roadmap, there was this project called MSP Global Initiative. And during the implementation of this 3-year project, we were able to engage many stakeholders around the world, organize different activities. And we had 2 pilot projects, one in the Western Mediterranean and another one in the Southeast Pacific in Latin America. And the main product of this project is this new guide, MSP Global International Guide for Marine Spatial Planning. And it's now available in English, Spanish, French, and Arabic. We just published the Arabic, the final one, last week. And it's very important for us to have these kind of tools in different languages so we can really support the different countries. And I would like to mention that we have different experts contributing to the development of this guide. And from the Eastern Mediterranean, we had Andrei Abramic, he is from Croatia, working in Spain, and Turkmen in Turkey, and Celia Vasilopoulou in Greece. And we had also our MSP Global Youth Ambassador Veranu from Lebanon, who is here. And in this guide, I made the exercise to look for the landscape, seascape, and cultural heritage topics, just to give you an overview about how these topics address in this guide. And as you can see here, it's just a few examples. It's mentioned a couple of times throughout the guide. So we are using the term maritime and underwater cultural heritage to have both tangible and intangible aspects. And we have some examples, for example, when the case of Israel, that in the vision of Israel, you have explicitly mentioning the marine landscape and heritage. We have an example from England talking about how to assess the social aspects. So that image there is from this seascape character assessment. We also brought here one of the examples from the West-Med pilot that I mentioned. We did two things in this pilot. One, it was an assessment of the current conditions of the different sectors and also the environment. And another one, it was a report on the potential scenarios. And one of these potential scenarios, the integrated one, we have some mentions about landscape, to avoid landscape disturbance in relation to aquaculture and offshore wind. So this is the pilot that I mentioned, like we in 10 countries involved, but those with the asterisks are the main ones, because they are really the West-Med countries. The objective of this pilot was really to improve the cooperation between the EU and the non-EU countries, and also to share this experience from the EU countries that have already developed the plans or are in the process of developing with these countries that are starting MSP. And what we did is basically like a past development activities, trainings, workshops with national authorities and regional ones. These two reports that I mentioned, and at the end, we were able to achieve a regional recommendation on MSP and sustainable blue economy. And the West-Med initiative adopted this recommendation as a way to follow up, to give the sustainability of the recommendation that we were able to achieve. And one important thing here in the technical report about current conditions, we tried to map underwater cultural heritage. This was kind of data that it was requested to all member states. And as you can see, complete data, we didn't have information about that. And I was coordinating the other pilot project in the Southeast Pacific, and we had exactly this. So it's important to map. So we need to see how to improve. Okay. We have these international tools like the guide, but we are also implementing some other activities in other regions, and for that we need to build some partnerships with other institutions. So, for instance, for the Eastern Mediterranean, in the beginning of the MSP Global Initiative, we had a joint training with UNEP PAPRA, and after that, because of the pandemic, we had to move to online activities, but we have a national meeting organized by Vera in Lebanon, and also a regional meeting for the Levant and Persia region. And all this information, these online activities, they are available on the YouTube account of MSP Global. And even the training, you have all the presentations there. So it's a source of information, the MSP Global website. And in relation to tools, we were able to have these lessons learned about best practices of managing coastal risks for some regions, and from the Eastern Mediterranean, there is one case study about Lebanon. Okay, what are we doing after MSP Global finished? So basically in 2020, in the middle of the project, IOC did this survey about the status of MSP. And with the results of this survey and other sources, we were able to launch last week during the IOC Executive Council this pilot State of the Ocean report. There is one chapter about MSP exactly to show what's the status of MSP nowadays. We know that it's not complete. It's very difficult to map this internationally to get the answers from all the countries, but it's the best that we could do. From the Eastern Mediterranean, these are the countries that we got information. Some countries, they replied the survey. The EU countries that didn't reply, we were able to find the information in the European MSP platform. But I know, for example, that Montenegro is not here and there is an initiative there. So because of that, we launched a new IOC survey we sent to the member states and we request the national authority responsible for MSP. So really need these and this survey, it's important because not about the status of MSP, so it's important for us to monitor the progress, but also because we have some questions about the needs of the member states in relation to MSP. So this helps us with the future projects, how we build new partnerships to promote MSP. And all this information, I can send the link to the survey, and then you can check if you are. And now, IOC and the European Commission, we will keep working together to promote MSP. So we will have an updated MSP roadmap. We will launch this year. It's a 5-year framework. We will launch during the 3rd International Conference on MSP. That you all will receive a save the date very soon, but I can tell you that it will happen in the end of November. And we will have the updated areas and a new roadmap that is under discussion. And another partnership that we are doing that is connected to the MSP roadmap is this MSP Challenge, MSP Global Training Network on MSP. So the government of the Netherlands donated material. We have it now in Arabic, Chinese, and Portuguese. So we were able to have this material in all these languages, and we did this partnership with 12 institutions so they can deliver training courses on MSP in respective regions and according to the language of the region to achieve more people. And it's this kind of tool is important not only for training, but really for stakeholder engagement between the different sectors. So that I finish my presentation.
Yes, there is just an issue, a technical issue, but
I think that this is what I would like to say.
thank you very much. Of course, I apologize for be as short as possible.
Marina, can you hear us?
Yes, yes. Now I can. Can you hear me?
Okay. Let me just check the.
I'm sorry.
Marina, please
Yes,
speak.
I'm having some issues. I lose you from time to time, so I hope you can hear me well at least.
So, if it's not an issue, people here take a break and have your presentation after the break. Would that suit you?
Yes, yes, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Marina. Thank you for the understanding. Sorry, Marina, about that. Trying to see how to do. Maybe we just connect this computer so that you can broadcast. So
Yeah.
I'll try to switch the connection.
Okay, I'm really sorry for this, for making you all this trouble.
Yeah, I know. But now, look, now it seems to work, but then from time to time it stops.
Yeah, unfortunately, because I was also hearing participants from time to time. It was really good. And then at some point, I didn't hear almost anything. So
I think
now I don't hear you.
yeah, see, I think it's the Wi-Fi of the room. Let me try with the roaming.
Okay.
The Wi-Fi è troppo. No, adesso provo col mio. Scusate, posso fare? So Marina, I'm cell phone basically. I feel it seems good.
Yeah, yeah. Now it's good.
Yes, 11:30 our time. So
It's in 15 minutes.
I'm so sorry because it's.
yes, okay.
Because now I'm losing you again. So
Yes. I really don't know. Don't know what to do with. I don't know if maybe. I know. Okay, Marina, you're muted. You're muted. I can't.
Ah, sorry. I didn't realize I was muted. Sorry. Can you hear me? No?
Now, yes.
Okay. I don't know if this works. Hi. Hi, hey, hi, Emiliano. I hear you well.
Yes, I also hear you well. Sometimes I lose the connection with Athens.
Yeah, I don't know how this will be manageable. Let's see.
How are you? How was your flight back to Split?
I spent